Hello, everybody. Let's check that we're all okay, and do say if you're here. That'll be lovely. The Magic of Passions from Austria. How wonderful. Yes, Jamie Bloom. Hello, Jamie Loom. Sorry, Nathan, Elvira, Amanda Wolfhara. Hey, everybody's piling in from Buffalo and North Germany and Holland and Kent and Oregon, everywhere. That's lovely to see you. Really good to see you. So, welcome to Tea with the Druid 148, brought to you, sorry, I'm just aligning things, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. It's welcome if you're watching live, and welcome if you're going to be watching the recording. So here we are, and it seems like a lot of us are having to brace ourselves for locking down again. I was just talking to Ema over in Ireland, and they're about to go into a 6-week lockdown starting tomorrow. Wales, I think, is going into a lockdown. I think it's 3 weeks, and quite a lot of other places are suffering from more restrictions too. So I hope you're okay with that, but what's the answer? Well, books are one good answer. Whereas the restrictions in the summertime, nature was the answer, getting out into the sunshine. It still is the answer to get out into nature, but maybe not quite as much as the nights grow longer and it gets colder and wetter. So books, they're my great source of solace at this time of year. And I've just spent the last week reading a wonderful book called The Old Weird Albion by Justin Hopper. And I think the wonderful thing about books is that if they're talking about places that you know, situations that you're familiar with, they enable you to see with fresh eyes, with new perspectives. And then when they're talking about things you don't know about, they introduce you to the unexpected, the unexplored. And so new vistas open for you. So it's a kind of win-win situation. And this book, The Old Weird Albion, is by an American whose grandparents were English, and they lived in Stenning, which is just up the road. So he's exploring familiar territory to me, which is the South Downs and Sussex. But he's American. He's come over. He's now living in the UK. So his perspective is just that little bit different, and so it makes it so interesting. It's beautifully written, and the theme that holds it together is that he's on the trail of clues for a mysterious woman who flung herself off the cliffs at Beachy Head, who turned out to be the first wife of his granddad in Stenning. And so that carries him through his explorations. And I wanted to just read you a little bit, because he comes to an event and a place that is very familiar to me. For a number of years, we used to celebrate the solstices, all the 8 festivals, up on Firle Beacon, a great hilltop over there. And Peter Owen Jones, who is a great character and who some of you will know, he's spoken at one of the Glastonbury gatherings. He is a vicar in the Church of England, very unconventional, and he would walk up to the beacon and join us in the festivities, and his congregation would come too, and so we'd have Druids and pagans and Christians and non-aligned people, and they would always be fantastic. And here's an account by Justin of a time when I guess I was there. My son Thomas was 3 years old when I strapped him to my chest and walked to the Long Man of Wilmington. We were staying at a house in Milton Street, little more than a handful of structures beside a country lane northwest of Eastbourne. From there, a path cut out across open fields to the hamlet of Wilmington. I cupped my hands around Thomas's little head, overcompensating for the minor breeze. In fact, it was hot having him slung tight against me. In those early growing days, an infant emanates such energy. The path was a green channel through a field of bristles. Straight along its sight line to the west was the profile of Firle Beacon. The previous night, we had watched the sun set behind Firle, its peak afloat in a tangerine glow that filled the valley around us. From the east, Firle appears so velvety and welcoming. I could jump from its crown and bounce like a trampolinist down its slope. One December, a few years before, on the morning of the winter solstice, some friends from Lewis took me to Firle to trek up that slope before dawn. I watched the others flowing up the hillside in the darkness and mud, a few dressed in white robes or wearing crowns of holly and thorn. At the top of Firle, we joined in a circle. There was music and poetry. The local vicar, his Christian faith unthreatened by such weird stirrings, led an invocation to the four winds and the four elements. We wrote our year's failings or misgivings on pieces of paper and threw them onto a bonfire. There were flasks of hot mulled wine making the rounds, and a hand drum passed as well. A man in white clothes and a purple cape, a crown on his head, raised his arms, silhouetted against a fiery rising sun. Most in attendance were people you would pass on the street without noticing. One woman was on the way to her rounds as a postal worker in Lewis. Another had her NHS scrubs peeking out from a heavy winter coat. No one mentioned anything particularly religious, no gods or goddesses. The passing of time was marked, the sun welcomed back, and we all got on with our day. I have kept that sunrise with me. It was cold at the top of Firle Beacon, and that cold bore the glowing blue-black darkness of the English countryside. On Firle before dawn, that darkness was cracked only by the fading moon reflected on clouds. When the sun appeared, it was as if from nowhere. There was no flicker, no first rays, just the sudden panning flame of the sun. Soon it was visible as an object, staring at us, coaxing us. I felt like a child wanting to impress it. On Firle, there was nothing between us and the sky, nor us and the land below, a sheet of motley greens squinting into view with the light. So that was a familiar experience expressed with a new voice and new eyes, and wonderful as a result. And now I'm going to give you an example of the other thing I think that books can do, which is to present the unexpected to you, which is that Justin Hopper mentions the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. And I was thinking, what is that? And so I sometimes read with my iPad on my lap, and so I can quickly check things out and follow little trails and tracks. And I stumbled upon this absolute treasure trove, which I really recommend to you. I'll pop up the URL at the end of the talk. And what it is it's a guy called John Koenig, who has started a YouTube channel called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. It's shortly to be a book, and it's brief but beautiful YouTube films that offer newly invented words for strangely powerful feelings that we don't have a word for. And it's, John Koenig gives an example. There is no word for the wistful foreboding sensed at the first sign of autumn. So what he does is he makes up a word, he creates a word, and then makes a little film about it, which is very beautiful with music, and then talks about this feeling. And what he's doing is he's helping us to develop our emotional literacy. You know, the research they've done in psychology around the fact that the more you're able to articulate your emotions, the more you're able to manage them and to feel comfortable with them. So a child, for instance, who only knows the word anger and hasn't got the different nuances of frustration, need, and so unmet need, and so on, it can only express anger. So if you teach a child about the subtleties of emotions and give them the language, they are able to be more fulfilled and effective and happy as people. And the same thing applies to adults as well. So I think John Koenig is doing a service in doing this for us. And do have a look at the films after this. I think you'll really enjoy them. And on my blog, I'll perhaps pop up a couple of examples. And it made me, and by the way, I mean, they're not just sad emotions. It's called the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, but there's a whole range of emotions. And it made me think of another similar project, far more light-hearted, but equally important, that was created by Douglas Adams of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fame with his friend John Lloyd. It's called The Meaning of Life. Now, I remember discovering this when we first house sat in the most wonderful house in New Zealand, Pamela's house at the Woolshed in Pukerua Bay, and while she was teaching down on the South Island. And Stephanie and I found this on her shelves, and we just spent the evening cracking up. What they've done is they've taken they have had a similar mission. They wanted to give names not so much to emotions but to a whole range of things, to objects, feelings, descriptors that aren't fully articulated with a word in the English language. And so they used words of villages, mainly villages in the British Isles, and I'll give you an example. Lindisfarne, adjective, description of the pleasant smell of an empty biscuit tin. Listowel, noun, the small mat on the bar designed to be more absorbent than the bar, but not as absorbent as your elbows. Little Urswick, you can imagine, I'm sure somebody in Little Urswick is listening right now. Noun, the member of any class who most inclines a teacher towards the view that capital punishment should be introduced in schools. And I mean, I was trying to find examples for you, and I just couldn't stop marking. Kellig, which is a verb. When you're kelling, it's a person. A person searching for something. No, it's a verb. A person searching for something who has reached the futile stage of re-looking in all the places they have looked once already is said to be kelling. I engage in kelling all the time. I'm constantly kelling. Finally, I'll leave you with this one. The clench wharton, archaic noun, clench wharton. One who assists an exorcist by squeezing whichever part of the possessed the exorcist deems useful. So there you go. So, how do we move from a clench wharton to a meditation? Well, hear what I thought. I'll just check that you're still here. Am I still live? Yes. Julie Babbis does a lot of kelling. I think we all do, probably. Yes. How do we move to a meditation? I was thinking about this, and I wanted to try an experiment. You know, we have a tremendous opportunity. There's like hundreds of us all around the world in this same moment. And let's have a movement meditation for a change. Ellie, it's a good gift. Yes. In fact, both those books are great gifts. Yes. I'll put them on my blog. I'll list them and give links. So instead of having our usual visualization, I'm going to invite you to move your hands. I'm going to invite you in a minute to just spend a few moments with eyes closed, imagining the hundreds of people who are now all around the earth, from South America and North America and Europe and maybe New Zealand or Australia and the Far East as well. And just imagine we're all in a great circle. So your eyes will be closed. And so get a real sense of this circle of people. And then just try making this gesture without thinking about it, without analyzing it. I'll invite you to move your hands together like that. And you know, when you do that, you get the bump in your thumbs. To move those two bumps and to press them against your third eye or your forehead, just gently, so you sense these two bumpy bits of your thumb there. And just dip your head in respect and reverence and greeting to all the people in the circle. And then move it to your heart. Touch your hands to your heart. Bow in respect and reverence to all the people inside, and to the whole planet, to the earth, to the sky, to the sun and the moon. And then we'll open our eyes. We'll see how that feels. So how about that? So if you'd like to do that, you might like to close your eyes to better concentrate on yourself, and you're aware of being seated in front of your screen or tablet. And at the same time as having that awareness of being in the here and now in front of your screen, it's also possible to have an awareness of being in a virtual space, being with hundreds of people all over the world. And each person is a unique individual, very much like you, but very different from you as well, each with their own lives, their own challenges, their own joys, and their own beings and essences. And so now, in recognition of that, just bring your palms together, move your palms up to your brow, so you can just feel the knuckles of your thumb perhaps just touching your center of your brow, your forehead or your third eye. And then just gently incline. I salute all of you who are here with love and respect. May your lives be blessed. And then move your hands down to your heart, and perhaps touching your heart with your thumbs, or just having it in front of your heart. Just bend a little forwards. And again, I greet you. I send you my love and respect. And I send my love and respect and care for the earth too, for the sun, the moon, the stars, and planet Earth with her trees, her forests, her oceans, her rivers. May the earth be preserved and protected and restored. A blessing on the earth, a blessing on the land, a blessing on our lives. And then gradually allow your arms to float down as you become aware of being seated here, and you open your eyes, feeling fully present here and now. Trisha says, I feel a line of, oh, I've lost it. Oh yes, I think I can click there. Yes. And then I can unclick. I can share comments with you like that. Karen says, that's crazy. How does that make me feel lighter? It's so simple, isn't it, Karen? That's what I love about this. I mean, you know, what could be simpler than doing that and that? And, you know, if you were in a skeptical mood, you'd be inclined to think, oh, you know, that's not going to do anything. I'm feeling glum and or whatever, you know. But just something, that's why meditation with movement is so good. That's why I really like sophrology, because it works with physical movement. Great. This is fantastic. These are like toys, aren't they? These things. I just love the way. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for. No, I don't know how to. How do I? Yeah. That was so much. Trouble is, what happens when you press? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Brian. You need this. That's great. So when I click on it, if I can just explain, that I can't. As I click, it disappears. So if I get the cursor in the wrong place, I click on Maria Potter. That was so much easier doing as a group than alone. And Brian, I hope this has helped to lift your mood a little bit. I think this is a difficult time for many of us, and this is why this kind of thing is really helpful. So much love to you all. Many blessings. Have a wonderful week, and do share books that work for you as well. At the beginning of the last lockdown in March, I just happened to be reading A Gentleman in Moscow, which is about a guy who is locked down in a hotel in Moscow. So the whole book is he's kind of trapped in this hotel, but he decides to make the best of it. And it's a beautiful book. It's a fantastic book, a great book to read at this time. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Many, many blessings. Bye. And I'm going to make a cup of tea now and read all your comments. So do keep commenting if you want to.